Hi there, I'm Karen Antara. Welcome to my channel. This is my January 2026 video, the first one I've done actually for January, probably a little bit late, fashionably late, let's say. I'm going to be talking about searching for truth in this video, and truth is very important to me, and alignment is very important to me, and I like to work intuitively with my energy flow. And to be perfectly honest, I couldn't do this video any sooner in January because I just didn't have that flow coming through. I was very much in the mode of letting go, shedding, moving through that releasing of 2025 energy. And I just want to talk about that for a moment because everyone says January the 1st, it's the new year. And sure, in the Gregorian calendar, it is 2026, but I'm just not feeling it yet. I feel as if we're still kind of on a bridge between moving from that one, 2025 into 2026. Human design, Chinese astrology all say that it starts later on into February. I can't give you the exact dates, but end of January would be the earliest. We're looking at February, even some into March, people are saying. I'm not an astrologer. I don't know those dates, so it's just kind of what I read and what I hear. But what I feel for me personally is that definitely we're still in the shedding of the old. It was the year of the snake. That's all about shedding the skin, all of that stuff, right? For me, I still think we have a lot of shedding to do, to go through. The shedding of what went before, but not just from 2025, remember, because we ended a 9-year cycle. So 2026 is the start of a whole new timeline, if you like, but a whole time cycle. We're on year 1 of a new time cycle. Now, you can argue that you've done all your clearing work already, and maybe you have, and good for you. But I just want to bring up into your mind as well that this is a whole 9-year cycle that potentially we have to work through and shed from some stuff from there. So the cycle of the last 9 years goes all the way back to the end of 2016, the start of 2017. Equally, before that, it was 2007, ending the cycle, 2008, starting a new cycle. So, that's how these cycles of 9 go backwards. Now, I'm going to do a personal share here because that's what I do. I always share from my personal experience. Those years were massive for me. Each of those 9-year cycles were massive, particularly in terms of what I believed at that time to be true. At the time, I didn't even know about 9-year cycles, to be perfectly honest. That's something that's come to me in more recent years. In 2007, I asked Spirit to bring me into my life only that which was truth. I wanted to live in truth. And what I didn't know at the time is that when you ask Spirit genuinely for something like that, it will bring it to you, but not necessarily in the way that you expect. And so when I asked to know truth, to live truth, I didn't expect, but that's actually what played out. Everything that was untruth, not true, was a lie, was a deception, came right up in my face. And of course it makes sense. In order to live in truth, you have to see what is not true. You have to break all that apart. So in my sincere desire to live in truth, everything that was untruth came right at me. So I then had to decide, this is true for all of us when we're in that situation. We then have to decide, are we willing to let that go? Or could I choose to ignore what I now know, that truth that was presented to me? Do I let it go, or do I cling on to it and carry on, holding on to something that is a lie, effectively, and continue to live my life in a lie. So, because I was so sincere in I want to live in truth, what came at me then was that was the year my marriage ended. It was also the year that I left a spiritual group that I had been a part of for a number of years, in fact, and already at that point I had been teaching it as a modality. Not my modality, her modality, and I was teaching it. So some cracks had started to appear for me within that healing modality with the material. And when I questioned it with the lady that had channeled it, I was told to ignore that, just teach what she had taught me. Basically, don't ask questions, ignore that bit that was staring me in the face, and just carry on teaching in the way that she had taught me. And I sat with that for 5 minutes because I realised that I couldn't continue to teach something that was untrue. That was clearly not right, and that I had been told to just ignore and just do that. I couldn't do that. I couldn't live with that. So I chose to leave. At the same time, around the same time, it also became evident to me that while I was away on retreat with that particular spiritual group, my husband was unfaithful to me. That was evidenced by a few of my friends who actually saw him out and about with someone that wasn't me. So I had to let that go as well. So that was a bit of a right in the face, right? That was the start of that 9-year cycle. It's like, oh my God, okay, do I bury my head in the sand, ignore all this and just carry on so I can have my nice, comfortable life? Or do I stand and look this in the face and deal with it? Well, those were two pretty major things in my life at the time, as you can imagine, and they were pretty much gone within a month of each other. This obviously was a huge catalyst for change for me, and that began in 2008, the start of that cycle, and it took me into a very different place. Truth is so important for me that there was literally just no other way. I had to do it that way. Now, a similar thing happened to me again at the end of the next 9-year cycle as well, and that was the end of 2016. I left another spiritual group that I had been a part of, and again, because I questioned some things, some of its core beliefs that I had to question, I had to challenge, I had to ask. Not because I thought I knew better, but to me, something wasn't resonating as a truth, and I was searching for understanding. But of course, my questioning again was met with resistance, and instead of honesty, I basically got energetically slammed for questioning that, and I also left that group. Now, both times that I left those spiritual groups, my business crumbled because the bulk of the clients that I had been working with at that time were members of those particular groups. So it was interesting to me because each time that I was on the verge of leaving those groups, I knew that outcome was likely. So that was all of my earning. Right? And I knew that if I left the group, likely everything would fall away, and that's exactly what I did. That was a bit scary because that was my safety and my security. That was how I earned my money. And at the end of the day, I really just had to go through with it. I had to follow my heart. I had to follow my truth, because at the end of the day, that is all we really ever have. Our truth, our integrity, our authenticity. That will carry us through life. If we give that away, we set ourselves up for a whole other challenging situation, don't we? Excuse me. I do love my tea. Anyway, here we are in 2026. We're at the start of another whole 9-year time cycle. I'm in a very different place, of course. I'm sure you are as well. I've learned an awful lot in these last 9 years, particularly. Very consciously learnt things as well as I was going through them. And to me, 2026 and onwards into this next 9 years is all about truth. Things will come to light that will shock us, that will horrify us, perhaps, if we don't already know some things. And we will be tested as to whether we will bury our heads in the sand, try and ignore it and just carry on because it seems simpler, or whether we will stand up, face it head on, deal with it, and bring the whole thing up into the light, from my perspective, to be healed and purified. So, will we cling to our old beliefs for safety and security, or will we let go, possibly have to start afresh all over again from nothing? Will you doubt yourself? Will you double guess yourself in order to not have your life change too much? Will you try to convince yourself that, no, it can't possibly be that. No, it's not that. Will you try to talk yourself out of it, right? Will you try to deny things in order to save face? Like, I know with the whole, divorce situation, it's kind of embarrassing, to hold your head up high and say, yeah, my husband was off having an affair. It's kind of embarrassing, but I wasn't willing to hide behind that. When I let go of the spiritual groups and the modalities that I had been teaching, I had to stand up and say, I found some things that didn't sit with me as truth, and so I've walked away. Will you argue to defend your belief, even though you know it's not quite true anymore? I think all of these things are what we will be tested on more and more as we move through this 9-year cycle. So in 2026, your beliefs will be triggered. It could be things of a personal nature. It could be big worldwide events. The who's who in the celebrity world, or in politics, or in pharma. Who is living in untruth, who is lying, who is deceiving, who is covering up things, maybe to line their own pockets, or to enable them to hold on to positions of power, or to enable them to be able to continue on in some really unsavory, horrific things that people are doing behind the scenes. People will deny that if they have to possibly give that up. So we're already starting to see that, I think, in Celebrityville, a lot of people being exposed. There's a lot of narratives on the media. We've got to watch that because not everything that comes out on the media is true. In fact, most has got something going on in the background. But this is the things that we need to look out for, and it's going to be gathering momentum as more and more truth comes to light. So hold on to your hat. The veil is lifting. There will be lots revealed in 2026 and beyond. Truth and alignment are very, very big themes for the whole of this next year cycle, because truth is a particular frequency. Authenticity is an even higher frequency. That's the energies that we're moving into. So through my personal experience, I learned how to navigate the shock of betrayal and deceit and the fear of literally losing all my income several times over. It calls upon us to do our inner work, to find the faith and the trust in ourselves, in our truth, in who we are. It calls for us to learn emotional regulation, how to master our emotions, and how to hold that frequency of truth, particularly when you get to the point that you are seeing a lot of other things that you are seeing a lot of things that others around you are not seeing yet. It really is about having the frequency within yourself to be able to lift the veil and see things that other people can't always see yet. And I learned as well that you don't need to argue for your truth. I learned this many times over the hard way. When you try to convince people that what you know or what you see or what you believe is right, if they're not ready to hear it, it doesn't go down too well. So, I learned that the hard way. I tried to convince people of certain things. Now I don't bother. That's not really meant to be a cop-out. It's just that I've come to the understanding that people only see things when they're ready to see things or when they choose to see things, right? Because sometimes we kind of know on the inside that something is not right, but we know it's going to shake the foundations of our whole life. And sometimes we don't want to challenge that because we don't want to rock the boat, That's kind of self-preservation, and that's, if you haven't been through that already and learned how to navigate through that, maybe you've got that lesson coming, because this year, I feel, this 1 year is all about foundations, setting a good, strong foundation for what you are building for the next coming period of time. So it's true that I do have a skill of hitting the bullseye with what I see and sense. And I know that it's very uncomfortable for people sometimes, when I'm saying things that maybe they're not ready to hear yet. I'm probably still learning how to know when someone is ready to hear it. But I do deliver it more gently now than I used to, so that's progress. The thing is, not everyone wants to hear the truth, but a lot of people do. And I found that the people that I work with, the people in my groups, my clients, they want the truth. Those are the people that really want the truth. And if I can help them to see their own truth, then that is perfect. That's what I'm here for. Because this is not about what my truth is. I'm not trying to tell you what is truth based on me. I'm actually trying to help you find your truth, because I recognize that it could be slightly different for all of us. So my clients, the people that really resonate with my work, they love that we get to see the truth by hitting it on the bullseye. They are the ones that want to get straight to the point, deal with things, stand up to things, and that is how we get fast results. Other people take a little bit more time, and that's exactly as it should be. And I have learnt to work with those people too over the years. And it should be that way, because when we don't all do things the same way, we are meant to do things the way that works for us. And part of our awakening really is learning what is right for us and being in alignment with what is right for us. I've worked with people in the past, coaches or mentors or whatever, and I've tried to do it their way. I've tried to be like them, but at the end of the day, that's not me. And so I have to bring it back to me. And when I am true and authentic in my expression of that, then it's much easier for my perfect clients to find me, because they know exactly who I am. I'm not trying to be somebody else, right? There is no one size fits all when it comes to our healing and empowerment or awakening work. So, and the same with our ability to know and feel and sense and see what truth is. We all learn that differently. And the more that we live in truth, actually, the easier it is to spot a lie, because it comes across with a different frequency. Truth and lies or deception have completely different frequencies, and we can feel it like a discordant note. Today, I watched a video earlier on, it just came up on my feed, from somebody that I know and trust, and he shared this little video. It was from a top UK, I think he might be an astrophysicist or something like this. Anyway, he was talking about Three-Eye Atlas, that comet thing, right? As I watched it, it didn't take me very long at all to begin to feel that something was off with it. I did watch the whole video. I was kind of intrigued, and I kind of thought, wow, it was shared by somebody I trust. Should I just accept it at face value? But no, I didn't, because something felt off. Anyway, at the end of the video, I went and researched it a little bit more because I wanted to understand why I had felt something discordant in his message. It was a very technical, mathematical video, far beyond my understanding, to be perfectly honest. My logical mind could never have worked out if that was truth or not. It was mathematics with far too many digits for my mind to understand. So I didn't know if what he actually was saying was true or not, but it felt not right. Anyway, I dug deeper, found his channel on, where he puts out his official statements of what he's discovered in his math or science, whatever. And he had come out and strongly refuted the video. He said, that was not me. I did not make that video. I did not say those things. It turned out that it was somebody had created it. It was an AI created thing. It looked like him. It sounded like him, but it was not him. And I'm so pleased that I had trusted myself on that point. AI is everywhere. We are being tricked and possibly coerced into believing things that are not real, that are not true. But as we develop our kind of inner truth muscle, knowing, sensing, we can spot what is truth. That is the thing with inner truth. We can't lie to ourselves anymore. When you're developing your truth so that you can spot it on the outside, you can no longer lie to yourself on the inside either, because you know you're lying and your ego loves that, doesn't it? So we can cling to our beliefs, things that we know are not true, just because we don't want to rock the boat, or we don't want to have to admit that we were wrong, or we don't want to, change our world in any great way. But the point is, we can't ask for awakening and expansion of consciousness and still cling to lies and deception. Like, the two just don't go together anymore. I remember years ago, I had women coming to my meditation classes, and they were, I'm going to say, afraid or not willing to admit to their own families that they were coming to me to learn meditation, because the family judged meditation as far too woo-woo. So they were actually coming to meditation to awaken and expand their consciousness, but kind of they were living a lie, right? Because they told their family they were going to book club. It doesn't go together, those two things. Truth is truth. And if you ask for truth, you have to live truth. And the thing is, I've learned that it's okay to be wrong. How else are we ever going to learn? Like, we don't get anything perfect the first time. We learn as we grow, and that is okay. I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect, and I'm not judging someone who genuinely wants to learn through their experiences. But if you're wrong, admit that you're wrong. It's okay as well to change your mind. So truth is going to continue to be a big theme as we move forward through these next 9 years. So you better get comfortable with it, because it's coming. And I would recommend that you question everything. However, with that said, we have to acknowledge that not everything is provable. How do you prove love? How do you prove that you're living in truth? How do you prove that this is in alignment for you? How do you prove that you are being genuine and authentic? Does it even need to be proven to anyone else other than yourself? If these things are true, they will carry the frequency of truth. And that is what we have to learn to align to for ourselves. We don't have to prove that to anyone else. And the thing is that what is true for us may be different to what is true for somebody else. But it's still a truth for them. This is where we get a little bit into philosophy and kind of does my head in a little bit, because, you know, what is truth? What is true? What is absolute truth? We can go round and round on that. That's kind of not the way that I go. For me, it's, you know, I'm a very emotional feeling being, so it's all about the feeling and the frequency. I'm reminded as well of a metaphor that I heard many years ago, and it was something like, if aliens came to visit the Earth and they had to report back at what the Earth is really like, what would they report back? Given that one of them was dropped off in the Amazon jungle, one of them was dropped off in the middle of New York City, one of them was dropped off in the Sahara Desert, and one of them was dropped off in the North Pole. And they would all return home and they would go, no, it's green and lush and humid. And someone else would say, it's a concrete jungle and there's cars and people everywhere. And someone else would say, it's hot and it's just sand. And someone else would say, it's icy cold and it's just white. Each experience is true and correct, is it not? And yet everything, they're all seeing it from a different perspective. So I always wondered, you know, did the aliens, you know, fall out with each other over the truth? Did they argue about, no, you're wrong, no, I'm right, you know, when they're all true? It's all true, right? So that always kind of used to make me laugh. And especially now, as more and more is being put forward to us to divide us, to conquer us, divide and conquer, to put us in opposition to each other, you know, on the global stage, everything is an argument. It's a protest for this, and these people are right and these are wrong, and you have to accept these, and these are not acceptable. And, you know, it's all a big argument out there on media, on the global stage, everywhere, really. Can we find a way to override that? Can we find a way where we can still come together in unity as humanity? Can we find connection? Can we find our people and yet at the same time accept others? Can we stand together for some certain things, even though we are all vastly different in our life, in our experiences, in our beliefs? And basically, can we heal the divide that is being deliberately created amongst us? At the same time, recognizing that each of us may also be at different stages in our growth, evolution, and awakening. And so it's natural that we'll see our differences. It's also natural that some of the behaviors that other people are doing is just not acceptable. Is child abuse, sexual abuse, domestic violence, killing, hurt, you know. Is any of that ever acceptable? Can we accept everything that goes on here and call us all equal? It's a difficult question, you know. Political parties, for and against, this, that, and the other. You know, all of that is put out there to divide us. And we can get very involved in those external things, the arguing of the outside world. But does that really help us? If we're talking about frequency, vibration, dimensions, different realms of experience and reality, does it help us to be involved in the arguments that we see on social media or news? So I feel that it always has to start inside. We have to come into ourselves And it's true that we don't know what we don't know yet. So we have to leave space for learning experiences. You know, we can have put all of our attention on that thing over there and then one day go, oh, it's actually not at all what I thought it was, and I need to move myself away from it. And that is okay. So I feel that this 1 year, 2026, is all about stripping back, stripping things away. We have to strip things away in order to clear things up and build new strong foundations to build from the ground up. All we can do is our best to live in truth, in integrity, in authenticity, and be a good person and be a kind person. And all of that starts in our heart. We're definitely moving away from the cycle of mental into the cycle of emotional, being in the heart space. And that's why it's so important that we feel our way through truth, even if the logical mind can't make sense of it, even if the logical mind is challenged. Like, why would you give that up? You were earning all your money in that way. And then the heart says, but I can't, because I have to live in integrity and I have to be true and authentic to me, to who I am, to my soul, to my purpose. So that's kind of the challenge that I think we're going to be moving into. We are already in it, actually. So get used to that one. Get used to sitting in your heart space, being brutally honest with yourself about what is true for you, what is in alignment. And I encourage you to be as authentic as you possibly can, because I do believe that that is where we will find health, happiness, love, joy, abundance, and all the things that we are worthy of. So if anything that I've said here resonates with you, if you're interested and you'd like to know more about what I do, what I offer, how you could work with me, then you can find me at my website, which is karenantara.org. I have YouTube, Facebook, Substack, all under my name, Karen Antara, energy coach and intuitive channel. So I hope this video has given you a few things to think about and ponder. I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, and your experiences. Let's keep in touch, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.